Friends, Cowboy Jobu here with the Jobu Report, and as always, thank you for subscribing to the Jobu Report. What? You haven't subscribed yet? Well, what the hell are you waiting for? Click on the picture of me and Sean Lee so that way you can get all of your Dallas Cowboy news. Now, of course, we're going to check in on First Take Dallas Cowboys, as I like to call it, because Stephen A. Smith has asked the question, do the Dallas Cowboys fear the Seattle Seahawks? And of course, you being the haterade that you are, say that they should be afraid of them. Surprise, surprise. Let's go to the tape.
Stephen A., last week you said the Seahawks were the biggest threat to the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC. Well, yesterday they didn't live up to your expectations as it was a low-scoring affair when they lost to the Bucs 14-5. Russell Wilson was sacked a season-high 6 times. This is their 3rd straight game this season without a TD. Seattle 2-3-1 on the road, and this was Earl Thomas's first game he's ever missed in his career. Stephen A., are the Seahawks still the biggest threat to the Dallas Cowboys?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I'm not phased. Mere bag of shells. It's no big deal. Listen, here's the deal. When you got teams like the Seattle Seahawks that have the kind of character that they have, getting punked this late in the season actually ends up being a good thing because their pride kicks in, that bravado, that machismo, they say, and they raise up and respond to such challenges. They got punked yesterday. They got beat up, beat down, smacked around. Russell Wilson, it talks about here, our producer extraordinaire David Sabino. Let's give him some love post-Thanksgiving. I mean, he had enough love on Thanksgiving. See how big that boy is.
Sabino's the best. Sabino's the best.
I'm just saying, he's a big boy.
Put him out there like that, man.
It's all love. It's all love. He's a big boy. He's a big boy. He appreciates it. Here's the deal. You know.
Let me tell you something. If you, the great researchers are always fat guys because they're sitting there by the computer.
Fat, you guys.
They're sitting there by the computer.
He's not
They're sitting by the computer doing research.
See, you crossed the line. I said he's a big boy. I didn't say fat.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I said big boy. But that's the deal. David, that's Max. That's not me. Here's the deal.
Love you, Dave.
All right.
I can't.
Russell Wilson pressured on a career high 27 of his 45 dropbacks. That's 60%. He couldn't breathe all night long. They were all over him. What was he on third downs? Like 2 or 7, sacked 3 times on third downs. It was a long night for him. And you just look at them offensively. 5 points, only 151 yards passing. Your leader rusher was Russell Wilson, who ran for 80 yards. Other than that, Rawls is something wrong with it. You better get. I'm telling you, Christian Michael knows what's coming back. Rawls gonna be on the bench.
Banged up O-line, spent the least amount of money on that offensive
I know
line.
that, but still in all, when you've got these other guys at certain junctures of the season that have stepped in, Rawls is gonna have to figure that out. In the end, what it comes down to is this. Tampa surprising.
Right.
Give their defense a lot of love and credit.
And Jameis.
All right, and Jameis. But the flip side is that Seattle got to get themselves together offensively, and it starts with that offensive line they're going to have to figure out. I believe they will.
The thing that I worried about Seattle, and this has been 4 weeks now, we talked about it on my show, McNabb and Custer, 10 p.m. Eastern to 1 a.m.
That's a radio show we're talking about?
Radio show, channel 80.
10 p.m. to 1 a.m.
So you know you don't have to look at the camera.
Just
the camera looking at
got it.
That's all right. I just had to look back and give that eye. You got to throw that eye at them.
Channel
People, you know, watching.
Dancing with the Stars coming up next.
Yeah, you might want to tune in. You can get a great insight for the show. But when I look at when I look at the Seattle Seahawks, the thing I worry about is not about Russell Wilson because I think he's getting healthier. We've seen what he can do if he has to tote the ball. But it's the running game, the lack of running game. Precise was a guy that all of a sudden he came out of nowhere. He's hurt now. You talk about Rawls coming back. He's coming off of injury of the last 2 weeks. He still has to get the rust off of him. So now you're relying so much on Russell Wilson to do it all when you haven't heard much from Baldwin or Kurz. All of a sudden, Jimmy Graham is getting targeted more than 10 or 12 times in a game. So they have to be able to open that offense up. But when I look at the offensive line, they've been struggling all season. You can always say that Russell Wilson's not healthy. Well, if you don't have a healthy quarterback, that means he's a pocket passer. So offensive line has at least given him some time to be able to dissect the defense and go through its reads. But defensively was the one that I was really in question. How do you allow Jameis, Martin, and Mike Evans to come at you that way in that first half and play pretty much a flawless first half versus this defense? Yeah, Earl Thomas isn't in there, but Cam Chancellor's back. Avrill's in there. Richard Sherman is still there. I know Michael Bennett is on his way back, but this isn't the same team that we've seen over the last couple of years. It's a good thing that they lost, yes, at this particular point, because I thought it would have been a good thing if Dallas would have lost to Washington so that they can kind of recalibrate and come back together and understand going forward what they need to do. But I'm just a little worried going forward of what they're going to do in order to run the football. Marshawn Lynch plays so much of a big dividend for them because he was able to tote it on the first and second down. But they need somebody to carry the load, at least 15 carries, strong carries, to average 3.5, maybe 4.5 yards a pop.
I'm glad you brought up Marshawn Lynch because they're really missing beast mode. And usually with teams that have star running backs, people overestimate the impact of the running back because it has to do more with the offensive line. And there are a lot of running backs that are interchangeable in football. Put them behind a good offensive line, they look good. A bad offensive line, not so good. Look at Todd Gurley right now, who's very talented, but struggling. Beast mode made a big difference. But this is why I think the Seahawks are a legitimate threat to the Cowboys. And it makes me sick, by the way, that we start with the premise that, we just assume it's implicit, right? The Cowboys are the team to beat.
Right.
Like, we are now living in that world, unfortunately.
You're not
However,
lead into
that's the
a
way it
Giants
goes.
win and all of a sudden they win the NFC East.
Oh, God, please. All right, anyway, the point is, here's the problem with the Cowboys. They can't get pressure on the quarterback.
Right.
That's their Achilles heel. I'm not saying it will be their undoing, but if they are to be undone, that will probably be the problem. Now, the Seahawks, the philosophy in Seattle seems to be, we are not going to invest a lot in our offensive line, either in terms of draft picks until very recently or money. We're going to hope that through the course of the season, they play together enough that they develop chemistry and get to be adequate. That was happening until this last game, where Russell Wilson wasn't very good. You know why? He got sacked 6 times, because they can't protect him. So that's a problem, unless you're playing against a team that can't get pressure on the other quarterback. Suddenly, the Cowboys are going to make the Seahawks offensive line better than it is. And to me, more than anything, more than not having Marshawn Lynch there anymore, more than the defense not showing up, as you mentioned, the number one issue with Seattle is the offensive line and their ability to protect Russell Wilson, even more than block for the run.
Let me interject.
If the Cowboys can't really exploit that, the Seahawks could beat them.
Here's the deal. Looking at the Seahawks schedule, you realize they only have 2 road games left?
Mm-hmm.
At Green Bay, ain't that tough these days. At San Francisco, forgive me. I don't think I should be too worried. You got home games against Carolina, the Rams, Arizona. Those are divisional games, so we'll give it its due respect and recognize it could potentially be tough. But if you're the Seattle Seahawks and you've got your horses and they're in that lineup and on that field, you should beat 4 of the next 5 opponents that you're going up against. So we're talking about an 11-3-1 season, a number 2 seed in the NFC, and essentially a championship game, in the NFC championship game, assuming the Cowboys live up to the hype and make it there. The Cowboys hosting an NFC championship game with Seattle being the ones to visit. I don't think that that's something that anybody can ignore. I love what I'm seeing from Atlanta. Their offense is high-powered, no doubt. The defense is playing better. But you think about they're Oakland, and they're the Oakland Raiders of the NFC. And so that's what we're talking about here. I still think it comes down to Seattle.
All right, let's get into tonight's game. At 4-6, the Pack.
What? Forgot my utility knife.